Hi, friends. Hopefully, everyone could hear me. Looks like we have a success today. So far, no problems with sound and video. If I could get a quick sound check from my moderators, that would be great. Thanks, Yaniv. I don't know what's going on now, but everything seems to be working. I tested everything ahead of time. So, I made sure it was all working, but now we see that it is. So, anyway, I've got a new camera, the same mic. It's a professional mic and should be working. Anyway, we have a lot to talk about this week. And if you've been following what's been going on, wow, is all I could say. The amount of information that's been coming out has just been incredible. And we will continue to see most of this throughout the month of August. If you've been following me for a while, that I've been talking about how some of these alignments that are coming in are going to be very revealing. And this is what we're seeing right now. And so I've got a bunch of slides. We're going to do a slideshow. And then if we have a few minutes after, I'll take a few questions. But of course, every Sunday, I'll be doing the Zoom call with my community, the Inner Circle community. And I've got slides for them too. And we'll be doing an astrology lesson today. And so if you want to join, there's a free 7-day trial. There's a link down below. Just click on it. Come in and check it out for yourself. There I could talk a little bit more freely. And the members are great. They send me questions. I look at a few charts for them, answer a few questions, so there's a lot of interaction taking place. Anyway, we're going to give people a few minutes to chime in. There's always a build up here. And, within 5 minutes, and then we'll go into everything. So the messages I keep receiving is really kind of weird, and I'll share some of them with you. It's like the calm before the storm. And what I mean by that is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, like, all of the information is coming out. Everything you think you know is coming out. And, or you don't know is coming out. And it's going to shock many people. This is what I'm getting. And it's going to come fast and furious. And one of the things that I do notice is that time is accelerating. I mean, it is just flying by. And maybe that's because I'm, living out of an RV and I'm, basically doing my own thing here. But time seems to be accelerating, or our perception of time is absolutely accelerating. So we are definitely going to see more of that. The energy from this point forward is going to continue to feel weird. I don't know about you guys, but it feels like we're in the twilight zone. And it has a lot to do with the frequency, the earth, the magnetic fields. There's a lot of science behind it, but more importantly, there is energy that is moving. And this is what I saw a few years ago, as I keep telling everyone that wants to listen. I saw waves of energy, bluish white energy coming in, bombarding the earth. And this was what was causing a lot of the changes to our way of thinking, our physical body, our sleeping habits, our eating habits, things that are happening in the world. Now, of course, I have said that there is absolute manipulation with the frequencies on this planet, whether we're talking cell towers or we're talking about the Nexrad towers. There's overwhelming evidence that there's definitely something going on there. But we are going to continue to see this energy work through us. And at the same time, we're going to see through lies and manipulation, because that's one of the things I saw years ago, is that all will be revealed. All will be revealed. That's the messages I was getting for a while. And this was in 2008, 2009. So way before any of this nonsense started with the politics. And speaking of politics, I will be going into politics today. This is a topic that I really do not like because I know too much about it. But I have to talk about it, friends, because I'm trying to show you how the astrology works hand in hand with the changes on the planet. Remember, astrology is just a tool. It is it's like a measurement. It's a measuring tape. It measures movements, and we could see it through symbolism. And so that's what I do. And I use a numerology. And of course, I use my own spidey senses, which we all have, to tune into things based on what I see in the charts. And so we have a tremendous amount of energy. Also, we have a wonderful alignment coming in on the 11th, 12th, and 13th, which is Venus and Jupiter will be aligning. One of the most favorable alignments. And I did the weekly astrology overview for my community. And that's another reason to join my inner circle right after this, because you could get access to that weekly astrology overview. And I talked all about what the astrology for this week ahead looks like. So it looks really good. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into sharing the screen here and get into this slideshow, because I know you guys, want to know what's going on, or at least gain my perspective of what's happening. So let me start this slideshow. All right, hold on one second, guys. Come on, computer. There we go. All right, so obviously I called this one too much information coming out, and boy, have we seen a lot of information this week. I'll be honest with you, it even surprised me, that all this information was coming out with the political theater. And so we're going to get into that. So one of the reasons why I said this is because of the full moon that happened yesterday. This full moon, all the energy from the beginning of August all the way to the full moon, the energy was just like slowly building, ramping up, ramping up. And we saw it happening in politics. This is a perfect example of what was happening. Now, if you understand what Aquarius, this was an Aquarius full moon. Aquarius represents humanity. It represents the people. It represents doing things out of the ordinary. And full moons will bring to light things that are hidden or in the subconscious. That's what it represents. And so the full moon in Aquarius happens to have been close to, in the United States' chart, we have a moon in Aquarius. The United States was born under a moon in Aquarius, as I've shown many times in the United States' chart. So it was happening in a part of the chart where it began to reveal information. This is how I knew that there was going to be more information coming out about what was going on. Now, remember, Aquarius energy is about new, innovative ways. It is not the old ways. It does not like doing things in a traditional sense. It likes to break through barriers. So this full moon is bringing to light information that we need to, sort of transmute or move beyond. That's what this full moon brought in. So in your own personal life, you probably realized or had some realizations, I got to stop doing the same nonsense I'm doing. I got to change something. So this is the way a full moon works, okay, depending on where it is, it lands in your chart. So this is what's really doing a lot of the changing symbolically, okay? So here was the full moon. I gave you guys on YouTube one of my free inner circle calls right here, inner circle call, Sunday the 3rd. I put this up and I started talking about the full moon, okay, to my community. And so I talked about how this was going to be very revealing as Mars opposes Neptune, which is sort of revealing the partnerships, revealing and changing the dynamics of partnerships, because Mars in Libra is about partnerships and legal matters. Have we seen any of those this week? Absolutely, and we will continue to. And up against Neptune, Neptune's power is to dissolve. It is to, what's real, what's not real, And so this is the energy as this full moon was being highlighted between power structures and the people. And so we're going to get into that. We also see Venus and Jupiter in Cancer. Cancer is the sign of the United States. So I did say something about the people and land, right? Did I not? But anyway, check out this video and consider joining the inner circle. Anyway, let's go into what I was talking about. So I said since the end of July 30th, we started seeing all kinds of stuff happening in the political theater. I said we're going to see a lot more of it. Here's Venus entering Cancer. And we have 3 planets in Cancer in the United States' chart. There is the moon, see the moon in Aquarius in the United States' chart. And of course, notice this is what I want to also bring your attention to. The North Node is what we're striving for. So it gives us it's like a carrot and stick. And it's in the 3rd house of communication, ideas. And so what the United States is going through, and it's in Pisces, which is about dissolving, but it's also about spirituality. So we see a resurgence of religious people, whether it's Christian, Muslim, Judaism, whatever. We're seeing more of those coming out, especially in the United States, especially the Christians and the Muslims. These 2 organizations are really making it known, in terms of their power and their, uniting force that's happening here. Okay. So we see that this 3rd house is a main focal point, but that full moon was in the 2nd house of values, money, power. You see, and of course, the sun was also on the north node in the United States' chart. So again, we're seeing power structures. We're seeing people behind the scenes. We're seeing people, that are really pulling the strings. So I did say this, and we will continue to see this. The month is not over. We're going to see more, nonsense coming out of Washington. And so we have to just pay attention to it. Don't get upset. Don't, go off the deep end. I tell everyone, watch everything, listen to everyone. Don't believe a word of it. Okay? Because you're basing your belief systems on something that may or may not be real. You have to trust your own instincts. Okay? We all know what's right and wrong because our gut tells us, our senses tell us. And so everything that we're seeing right now is happening on purpose. But make no mistake, you always have to watch the subtle moves that are being made behind the scenes. And that's what I advocate here. Okay. So anyway, let's get into the full moon. And here it was on the 9th. And I did say, I see a lot of stuff coming out. In power structures, we see the 4th house, which represents the home, the foundation. I did say the House of Representatives. Now, what this was indicating here, not the House of Representatives in the federal government, but it seems to have been one of the states where there's so much information coming out on that state legislator, the legislators from that state who left the state. And I will cover that later on in the video. But we could see that this was going to be a problem here because there's an opposition going on here. There's an opposition going on here. And of course, there is what looks like a square to Venus in Cancer. This is about the people and people getting upset or being emotional for some reason. And we'll get to that later, but this was going to bring it all out. But also, before I get started and go deeper into the presentation, I just want to bring your attention to something. Everyone on YouTube that starts getting a little bit more popular starts getting spammed. Okay, there are so many fake comments in the fields here, like these people, and I've traced it back to India, Pakistan, China. These are all fake comments that are trying to get you to buy a book or redirect you to another page or another YouTube channel, whatever. And we try our best to remove this garbage. And please pay no mind to it and just report it if you have to. But it's all garbage. It's all spam. Okay. Honestly, breaks my heart to how to manifest unseen by notice Luna Rivers. It's all garbage, friends. And believe me, there's tons of it every month. And I'm not the only channel. There's so many other channels. And so I just want you guys to realize there are fake algorithm, people that are on there, and they just write these algorithms in and they attack certain sites. So please, when you see these comments, just ignore them. Anyway, let's get into what's really going on, the nuts and bolts of the political theater. And so this is going to be really important. Just let's review what has taken place or transpired this week and why it's important. Of course, we saw the big tsunami here where AG Bondi orders a grand jury probe into this guy's officials and explosive Russian gate plot against Mr. T. Again, I'm talking in code for those of you that say, why do I keep calling him Mr. T? Or why? It's an algorithm that is listening to this channel and to every channel. Do you understand? So I have to talk in code. Anyway, so we see this is a big story that was on the 5th, but it was actually on the 4th. So we see all of this stuff happening this week. We saw this pencil neck also under investigation. So we're seeing things moving. We're seeing things that are, moving to the right, let's just say, okay? But it's really exposing the deep state players. These are just the players. These are the low-level pawns that have been doing the dirty work and the bidding for these international banksters and the hidden hand that's been running this country. And they're doing it on purpose. Remember, they want conflict. They want Democrats against Republicans. They want blacks against whites. They want gays against straight people. They want conflict. So this is why I say stay centered. Don't buy into the fears, the anger, whatever it is. Don't buy into it. Just go, oh, this is interesting. All right, let's see what happens here. Keep it centered and don't get overwhelmed with too much information. We also saw this criminal here getting indicted. She's under investigation as well in New York. I mean, we are literally seeing these players, doing all the dirty work behind the scenes. And now it's, things are coming to roost. And so this has a lot to do with her fraud, mortgage fraud, just like this guy's mortgage fraud. That's what they're going after them for. They lied on their mortgages and, and all the other paperwork that they've submitted to the banks. So this is what they're being investigated for. And rightly so, in my opinion, because, they led the charge against Mr. T. And now, he's going after them. So anyway, we saw this too. This was really important. Chairman Comer subpoenas this guy and his wife and everyone else connected to this clown. Now, again, I'm not going to mention his name. Don't want to bother the algorithm or the AI, but there is a couple of references to him as well, too. So we're seeing explosive information coming out this week, which is absolutely important to keep an eye on. But also, as I said, friends, always look at the other stories that are hidden. Either sneaky bills that are being passed about, financial matters or new banking systems. That's the key. You want to watch that stuff. Okay. Here's Benny Johnson, who does a great job of posting. And here's his ex post, and he shows you all the people that are going to be subpoenaed. That should be one hell of a show, because pretty much most of them are probably going to take the Fifth Amendment. And so we're going to get nothing out of that. But again, it's meant to show you who some of the players are. Okay. And again, it's all involving this guy. Okay. So anyway, but there's this one is very interesting. This came out, I believe it was on X. And again, take everything with a grain of salt, friends. Take everything with a grain of salt. I'm just showing you some of the stuff that's coming out. Some of this stuff may actually be put out as misinformation. I'm not discounting that either. So it shows that Mr. T, his name in the blank files here, were not due to this stuff going on, but rather to complaints that Mr. T does not get caught up in the same way and never thrown in jail, according to this whistleblower right here. Okay, so this is suggesting, and I would look this guy's name up or whoever this person is and see if we could get him or her to talk in their own words, discussing this. Okay, so it is showing that Mr. T never really visited the island and seems to have had nothing to do with, this stuff right here. Okay, and I don't know for sure. Nobody really knows for sure. But again, we've had other reporters investigate Mr. T deeply. There was, I forgot her name. She was a longtime reporter on NBC and some of these other places, and she wanted to really find out dirt on Mr. T, and she couldn't find anything. She literally said, I could not find anything. It was just the opposite. He was helping people. He was sending money anonymously. He was paying off people's mortgages and stuff like that. So you saw the opposite of what everyone says he is. And I'm not saying he's an angel or a saint, but, again, you take everything with a grain of salt. All right. Here is another major story that came out. This is the butler for that guy there. Where was this guy here? The butler is now talking. He is now posting online, and Benny does a great job. Here's a video. You could watch it for yourself. He goes in detail, in depth. And, of course, we know this criminal is absolutely center stage with all of that criminality that was going on in the island. So we're seeing it slowly spoon-fed to the public, and it has to be slowly spoon-fed to the public, friends, because it's going to shock a lot of people. It's going to surprise a lot of people, especially the folks on the left, because they believe that, these people in power are their saviors. They're going to help them. They're going to send them money. They're going to be grateful that, they saved their side. It's all hogwash, friends. Anyway, we also saw Mr. T getting some favorable judgments. Okay, he got that appeals court to toss out some sort of contempt charge from that judge, that rogue judge in Washington. And so we saw another favorable, ruling towards Mr. T. Also, there was, he says that Apple is now pledged $100 billion investment in the United States. Do you see what he's doing right now, friends? Do you see what's happening? He was brought in not just to mediate all the different factions, the good, the bad, and the ugly, but he was also brought in to bring in business to the United States. If and when we go to a new banking system, if we don't have an economy to generate income, what good is a new banking system going to be? You get what I'm saying, friends? So Mr. T is also, the person that is bringing in big money into the United States in order to generate income for the United States and unfortunately for the bankers as well. So he's doing his part, you know, it's helping. It'll help I think it'll help America in the short term. Absolutely. But the concerning part for me is the 2030s, 2030, 2033, especially when we get into Uranus entering Cancer. United States is a Cancer nation. We will see the United States really change dramatically at that point. But we may see it beforehand. We saw this in China. I don't know how many of you saw this. Another planned event here. And remember, I talked about this about a year and a half ago. And so that they're trying to push this again on the world. And so that's still in the picture. You know, we can't discount that one either. We saw something else that was kind of weird. United Airlines grounds flights nationwide over technology issues. Remember, Mercury is the planet of communication. It's about transportation, and it is still retrograde as I'm doing this video right now on the 10th. And so Mercury retrograde will have effect on electronics. And so we see something else here with grounding all these flights. I think it was something over like 3,000 flights were grounded. So this also happened this week. We saw, of course, and I did say there was going to be some other event or major events that took place, and there were two of them. And they were both in Georgia. Very interesting. So we had a shooter here in Georgia, Fort Stewart, shooting 5 soldiers. Here is the shooter. Okay, Nick Sotar does a great job of finding information. So here's the shooter, 28-year-old Army sergeant. You could research it for yourself. I'm just showing you. But then there was also something else going on here. There's another shooter going on, and this happened on the 9th, right on the full moon, which doesn't surprise me at all because full moons do bring out sort of weird behavior in people. We had another one at the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta. This guy also shot up a bunch of people, including a police officer, I remember. Okay. He didn't kill him, but he shot a police officer too. So we saw 2 shootings within a couple of days of that full moon. We saw this at the beginning of the week. One of the Fed people there decided to resign. There's her name up there, Adriana Kogler. She resigns. Now this gives Mr. T an opportunity to pick a replacement in the Federal Reserve, the big-time criminal organization. We also saw this. Washington, everything is getting ramped up in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. Now, this one's very interesting to me because when I saw this, I said, oh, this is very telling. All right. So Mr. T increases federal law enforcement presence in D.C. Very interesting to me because, I don't want to speculate here and I have to be careful about what I say. But remember, the 10 square miles of the District of Columbia technically does not belong to the rest of the United States. It is a headquarter. It is its own sovereign laws. This is because of the Act of 1871. You could look it up. Again, I have to be careful what I say here. I've talked about this in my inner circle community. There's videos on it. Many people know about this. The District of Columbia is really its own nation with its own laws. And so when I see a story like this, increased federal law enforcement in D.C., is Mr. T making a power play to take over the District of Columbia? Just a thought, friends. Just a thought. Okay, I'm just putting it out there. Anyway, now let's go. Trump orders new and highly accurate census, not counting illegal migrants. Now, this is where it starts getting really tricky this week because it's almost as if he's going on a major offensive this week, which is not surprising given his chart. We're going through Leo. He has a Leo rising. He has a Mars in Leo. He has Pluto in Leo. So it's motivating him. The timing is right. And they're pushing forward with these plans to restructure the United States. He basically quoted here, people who are in our country illegally will not be counted in the census. This is what he said. Again, he's just showing you where he's going, what direction he's going in. He also, here he is, he signed something else, another executive order requiring his appointees, not career bureaucrats, to sign off on all government grants. Remember, he's going after the money that has been funding some of these NGOs and some of these organizations and some of these charities that have been doing all the dirty work in the United States. You've got to understand, friends, a lot of the dirty work happens and it's filtered through organizations that are not connected to the United States. Some are, some are not. Okay, they're layered. They're layered in, and they get money. We saw that they were getting money from USAID, and they were being channeled to different parts of the world, including local states and counties in the United States. This is how they've been taking over, slowly and quietly taking over every part of the United States. Now let's get into the real meat and potatoes of what has really been going on and why this state is so important. Texas House Democrats break quorum again by staying out of the state. This is the third time that the Democrats have run away. Okay, it happened in, I think, 2003, then again in 2020, and then now again, this is the third time. And so we are seeing really what's going on here. But remember, friends, what did your friendly neighborhood astrologer here say about Texas? Not only did we see the floods, but I said Texas is front and center over the coming years. Major changes are going to happen to the country based on Texas. And I did say Arizona too, so we got to keep an eye on that state too. So, but Texas was in the forefront because of the two eclipses. In other words, the energy of Texas was going to be, brought forth in some way. Here's another example of it. So here we see the Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, moves to declare every runaway Democrat seat vacant. So this is uncharted territory, friends. This has never happened before. There's no laws that, tell the Texas legislators what to do. So what they're doing is they're cutting their pay. No more electronic deposits into their bank account, so they can't get funded. The Texas governor and the Attorney General have filed lawsuits with the state Supreme Court. And basically, they're cutting off the funds. And of course, Beto O'Rourke got involved with funding, and Ken Paxton went after him. And the state Supreme Court says you cannot fund these people. So they're out of money. So somebody is funding these people, going to Chicago, California, and all these other places. So it's very interesting to see all this show unfolding. But why is this important? I will get into that. Okay. They also got the FBI involved. The governor of Texas also got the FBI involved to track some of these Democrats down and just bring them back, arrest them and bring them back to the state so they could sit in the house and vote. They're not going to get arrested, in jail. They're going to be arrested. So they bring them back to the state so they're present for voting. And so this is what's happening here as well. I mean, this is quite the show, friends. All right. If you really want to watch an in-depth understanding of this, I highly suggest Dr. Steve Turley. He's a smart man. He's an actual professor, a college professor who's retired from that and is doing full-time YouTube. But he does a great analysis of what is really going on. And he gives you the breakdown of what is really been going on the last 30 years. And this is what he said and what I've researched as well. This is about redistricting, okay? They use the term gerrymandering. If you want to understand how bad the states have been gerrymandering and rigging their elections, he's the guy you want to listen to in this video, because what he says is, you want to talk about gerrymandering? All the blue states named here, Illinois, Maryland, California, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New Mexico, Connecticut, New York, Hawaii, Washington State, Rhode Island, and Oregon, over the past 30 years have jerry-rigged their districts to squeeze out all the Republicans, especially in Massachusetts. Massachusetts has no Republican representatives in the House, in Washington. But most of these states, especially Illinois, another one, and New York, forget about it, and of course, California. These states have jerry-rigged their districts so bad in the last 30 years that it's lopsided. Like, for instance, Illinois has, 83% of their representatives are Democrat that go to Washington, even though the counties voted 40% for Mr. T. But you could see state after state after state of these blue states have rigged their districts and their counties to be favorable for Democrats. And so what Texas is doing now, Texas is front and center here, friend, because whatever happens in Texas will sway the rest of the nation because of the population growth and so many people moving there. And so what Mr. Trump is doing is trying to get more of the red states to change their districting to make it, back to normal. And so Ohio is doing it. Florida is going to be doing it. Pennsylvania. And so you should listen to this. I highly suggest this to give you an idea of what's really going on with this redistricting stuff. Okay. And this is big because this is how the Democrats have stayed in power for the last 30 years. Okay. Even though most of the country looks like this. This was the last election, friends. Look at this country. Does this look like an overwhelmingly Democrat country to you? Hell no. Okay. And we all know it. Look at even California. Look how red this is. All right. Even up here. Look how red these parts are. Most of this country, including Texas, is red. And of course, I live and I travel through Arizona. This is the thing we have to watch for in Arizona, because here we have one county that just turned blue, and this other one, I don't know what the hell's going on up there. I think this is Coconino, and this is Apache County. And so we're seeing, them trying to take over state by state. And of course, New Mexico is totally corrupt, and Colorado, unfortunately, but this is what the country actually looked like in 2024. So you could see all the all the little counties there. There's like over 3,000 counties, and most of them went for Mr. Trump. So we're seeing a redistricting, and some say, well, he shouldn't have done this now. It only is supposed to happen every 10 years. But this redistricting that's happening is happening in Texas because they have their own set of laws there. They could do it whenever they want because of the way their constitution is written. So anyway, we're seeing this show unfold, and we're not done with this show. This is going to be very interesting. And of course, the blue states are countering. California, New York, Illinois. They're all going to redistrict even more and gerrymander. But the problem is they've already gerrymandered their counties so bad that they cannot squeeze any more counties out. They've taken over most of the county. Like Massachusetts has no Republican counties. And so Illinois has 3, and they're going to try that, but it's not going to work because the farmers there, and they're deeply red, and they will fight that. But California could squeeze out another 5 representatives. But again, this is what's happening. Where it's showing you how corrupt the system is. Okay. All right. Here is something I want to dive into because I did post this. I found it online, and very important. Again, take everything with a grain of salt, friends. Please, don't believe anything. I'm just showing you the possibilities here. I've already showed you that the banking system is front and center for some massive change that's coming. And it's been a slow rollout up until this point, but I promise you it will be accelerating, possibly in the fall because of the astrology. September, October, I do see some changes happening to the banking system. But first, they have to get rid of this corruption. And that's how it's working. But here's something that I saw. White House staffers leak digital reset, okay, by 2030. If you understand why 2030 is so important, because remember, the World Economic Criminals have put out, by 2030, nobody will own anything. And, we'll be complying like a bunch of sheep. So this is why it's important. So this came out for a plan for cashless, retina scanned America by 2030. We're not that far off, friends. And believe me, they are trying their best for this, but I want to show you in detail. Take everything with a grain of salt. This is what they want. Okay. You could, after the replay here, you could stop this and take a screenshot of you if you like. All right. The document outlines 3-phase rollout. Number 1, from 2025 to 2026, decrease paper currency supply, promote this garbage right here. Now, it may not be called this right here. It may be something else. My concern is all you folks out there with the Nisara Jasara stuff, okay? You got to listen carefully. You are being conned. They are going to give people money in order to get them on the system. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And they're going to start with the poor communities, because they're easier. And unfortunately, they're not educated or understand what the hell's happening. They just know somebody's going to take care of them. There's going to be free money. And here, phase 2, it's tied to federal aid, healthcare, and education access via this garbage. Do you understand how it's going to be rolled out? It's going to be under the guides of helping humanity in some way. We're all going to give everybody money. Everybody's going to be great. But you have to comply to this completely. Retina scan, thumbprint, whatever. They're already doing that in Walmart. Every time you walk into a Walmart, you see the cameras are recording you. Okay, so they're doing this. It's a slow rollout. And then the third phase here requires a retina scan, verification for critical services from travel. If retina scans become required for money, travel, and access to basic services by 2030. Friends, I've talked about this. I've pointed out who the people are that know a lot about this. The Whitney Webbs, the Catherine Austin Fitts, James Corbett. There's so many others, okay? They've said, especially Catherine Austin Fitts, if this gets implemented and everything is digital without any safeguards, without any way, if the system goes down or if they want you to behave in a certain way, they will cut off your funds. Your card will not work. Your identification will not work. You will not be able to go to the store to buy anything, buy gas, and so on. That's the biggest concern we have, those of us that are in the truther community. You will not be able to get anything or go anywhere because you're not complying. Sounds like George Orwell's 1984 book, doesn't it? Okay, where everything is run by the state. That's our biggest concern. Now, we're going to see this roll out or something like it. All I'm suggesting is pay extra attention to when they pass these bills and what's really going on. If by chance Mr. T and the bankers decide to put out a new system, if it shows that it has safeguards, such as backed by gold or silver or some real tangible asset, the new currency, okay, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But if they do away with cash completely and you have to use this one system, it is going to be devastating. If they allow us to use our silver coins and gold and stuff like that, there'll be a lot of bartering happening, I can tell you right now. But this is such a critical time in our nation and around the world, friends. This is why it's so important to see what the moves are, to awaken as many people as possible. This is how we sort of overcome, by paying attention and putting pressure on the politicians and the so-called leaders, because there is an agenda here. So this is why it's so important right now to just stay really informed. And of course, the deep state and the AI algorithms and whatever else is controlling us is basically trying their best for disinformation, confusion, anger, and pitting people against each other. So we get distracted. So as I've said before, 75% of the population on this planet is clueless. Clueless. You folks that are listening to me and other people like me are the ones that are awake and know what's going on. Okay? So always remember, we are watching a show and they're trying to control the sheep as much as possible, unfortunately. There's another, these guys here, the Future Forecasting Group, put out another one here. Can technology really control our lives? And of course, these are possibilities. When I look at the world, and I know what the Matrix looks like because I've seen it 4 times in my life, really deep, through the use of, let's just say, substances to see, the reality for what it is. These are possibilities. They're seeing the same thing by 2030, that there seems to be a new system in place that is basically digital. There seems to be new currencies. And they put it out. This was a long session. They put out a free session. Obviously they want you to join their community. But I'm just saying that this was really well worth watching. So I suggest you do that. Okay. Also, look at this, friends. Look at what I discovered online under Realtor.com has posted this. A foreign investor quietly buys up $65 million in iconic Malibu real estate destroyed by wildfires. Imagine that, friends. Areas that are destroyed, and all of a sudden somebody comes in anonymously and starts buying it up. International, foreign. Gee, I wonder if it's the Chinese. I wonder if it's Switzerland. I wonder if it's the international bankers who are basically buying it through several different shell corporations, and that's what's been happening in the United States. If you understand what's happening, BlackRock, Vanguard, all these big funds, they're basically setting up multiple corporations and real estate corporations, and they're buying private residential property through these companies, and they're just outbidding everyone. Okay, so this is really eye-opening and not surprising. So this is how also the United States is being taken over, by the big criminal banks. Anyway, check out the free moon reading in the link down below. It's a mini reading, and then if you decide to purchase the full moon reading, we get some sort of benefit from it. But you guys get a great reading as well. So check it out. I left the link down below. Also, please join my newsletter. It's totally free. You get maybe 1 or 2 pieces of mail a month, and you go to this website, astrologerjoe.com, click on the newsletter. And there you could get the free moon reading. And if you decide to do the 7-day trial, click on the link. You'll get into the community. I will be there in about, what time is it? About 20 minutes. Anyway, here's the Inner Circle community. I really enjoy the Sunday calls with my members because, I get a lot of feedback. But I do the extended horoscopes in there. So you know how I do the monthly horoscopes here, but I do the weekly astrology. And I think everyone really enjoys that because I make more predictions on the weekly astrology in the community. So please check it out. Today, we're going to be doing an astrology lesson, but I will be going into more of what's happening right now with, the world powers that shouldn't be. And so we do the weekly Zoom calls every Sunday. So there's a link down below, 7-day free trial. So check it out. And since we have a few minutes, I think I'm going to take a few questions here, friends. Okay. But one thing I do want to remind everyone, always remember, we are energy, some sort of spiritual being in these physical containers having the human experience. That is the key to understanding and getting through all of this nonsense. We're not some sort of cyborgs, even though there are real cyborgs in human form, but we are spiritual beings having the human experience. Okay. Anyway, let me go out of here and get back to stop sharing. Okay. All right, friends, we're back. And I'll just look over real quick. My moderators are in here, and I'll get some questions from them. We are watching a great show. Absolutely. We are absolutely watching a great show. And it is amazing to see this stuff. And unfortunately, like I said, with the astrology, with Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus in Gemini. And by the way, next month, Uranus will go retrograde, making the 4th planet to go retrograde. These are the outer planets. And so from now to the end of the year, I'll just give you a little recap. It's a slowing down. It's a reevaluating. Things from the past are resurfacing, like what's happening with Mr. T, and he's going after all his enemies and all this other stuff. But we're going to continue to see, what's been going on. You understand? This is why it's so important to pay extra attention right now. Okay? Just be centered and pay extra attention to what's going on. Who's making the power moves quietly? Who's, passing legislation? Who's funding these things? Watch carefully. That's all I'm suggesting. Okay. I have a question here. What type of gold or silver company would you suggest? Basically, what I've done over the years is buy silver eagle coins and gold in small denominations. And there are many great companies. There's Noble Gold. There's so many of these smaller companies, and a lot of them have great reviews and reputations. And you buy in small amounts. The whole idea is just to have something of real value that's not going to lose its value. So what I've advocated to people in the past and people in my community is, if you have extra money, invest it in things that you think you'll need, such as supplies, such as land. Land, absolutely. I would highly suggest to everyone, if you can't afford a piece of land by yourself, then, get 3 or 4 or 5 people together and buy some land. Okay. Even if it's just to hold on to, because the value of land will continue to go up. Okay. And then maybe later on, you could put some small houses on it, put a septic in and maybe some water tanks or whatever, and you guys could live off of there. I'm not saying this to be a doom and gloomer. I'm telling you as an investment, and this is not investment advice, but you protect your assets because the dollar is going to go away at some point. It's a guarantee because it's worthless paper. It's not backed by anything, and they just keep printing it, and nobody wants the debt anymore, friends. Do you understand? All right, let me get to a couple of these questions here. Hold on one second, friends. A question, what's one thing you think will happen in 2026? 2026 is going to be completely new. We're in a 1 year, and I will talk about that towards the end of the year as we go into the 2026 review. Everything new is going to start implementing. There are going to be new organizations, new implementations in Washington. The states are going to start taking back their power. So it's like this rebirth that's going to take place. And I do see this for a couple of years, friends. So there is not all this doom and gloom. It is a rebirth that's happening, and it will happen at least up until 2030. But you have to watch everything carefully. Is it too good to be true? Do they want to continue controlling humanity? But I do see a rebirth in 2026, at least for a couple of years, 2027, 2028, 2029. But when 2030 hits and the 2030s, that's when things start to change dramatically. Why do dolphins and ban from contacting humans? How does that relate to astrology? I don't know. It's an interesting question. Dolphins are the most intelligent animals on the planet because they use 40% of their brain. So they're very telepathic. They're very smart. They just don't talk like we do. But, in astrology, dolphins are under Aquarius energy. So, why are they banned from contacting humans? Maybe they're trying to give, people hope. Do you still see Trump finishing his term? Right now, he's got a long way to go. He's got 3.5 years to go. But like I said, when I see Trump, I see him either stepping down towards the end of the year to give J.D. Vance the power. You understand? So he doesn't have to go through another election. They'll just make him a president, make him the full president, not just the vice president. That's the kind of stuff I see happening to Mr. T. Is he'll just step down and give it over to, to J.D. Vance. Anyway, friends, thank you all for being here. And I know I get a lot of newbies, so you got to catch up. But I'm going into the Inner Circle community in about under 15 minutes, so I got to prepare for that. And thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. And consider joining. There's a link down below. Check out the free little mini reading, the moon reading, which is really good. It's not mine. It's a third party. But it is really good, and I think you should check it out. Anyway, have a great Sunday, and I look forward to seeing you soon. But this is going to be a really eventful month, so get ready for some major changes coming our way. All right? Have a great week. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye for now.